All right, if you think true crime is always about million-dollar heists or massive, dramatic betrayals, well, you're going to have to completely rewire your expectations. Today, we're cracking open the meticulously documented case files of Inspector Dragan Petrović. We're going to explore a rural Serbian village where the incredibly mundane hides the genuinely unexplained, and where constant vigilance is, frankly, a full-time obsession. Okay, let's dive right into this. We are looking at the village of Gornja Magla, which has a permanent population of exactly 143 people. So it's an incredibly small, tight-knit place. It's the kind of environment where everyone knows absolutely everything about everyone else's business, generation after generation. Well, except for the things they collectively and strategically agree to forget, of course. Here is our investigation briefing roster. We'll start with the village inspector himself, examine the social contracts and a massive potato discrepancy before ending on the highly unusual avian anomaly and the midnight bell. Section 1, Gornja Magla's village inspector. Let's really get into a character study of the man at the absolute center of all this, the village's self-appointed, utterly obsessive record keeper. I mean, just think about the glaring contrast in Dragan's life. He imposes these incredibly intense duties on himself: general vigilance, pattern recognition, suspicious behavior assessment. He treats his job with the utmost seriousness. Yet his compensation for all of this is a mere 15,000 dinars a month. That's about 128 euros. Oh, and he has absolutely zero official police authority. He's literally just a guy who volunteered back in 1987 and never stopped paying attention. Section 2, the social contract cases. Our chronological procedural really begins here, with these seemingly mundane rural disputes, because they establish the baseline logic of how this village actually operates. So the crucial point you have to understand is that in Gornja Magla, taking communal resources isn't viewed as a crime. Think of it more like borrowing from a family member. It's communal redistribution. Dragan tries to investigate these incidents as criminal acts, but he constantly hits this wall of cultural practice where taking what you need is just seen as totally normal community participation. Take the 2015 Rakija discrepancy. Dragan goes full CSI, rigidly attempting to mathematically prove how 200 liters of communal alcohol vanished from the cooperative. He's demanding access logs, he wants distribution receipts, but the villagers, they just successfully argue against his logic by stating, Rakija goes where it is needed. To them, it's not missing at all, it's just flowing through informal community channels. Or consider his attempt to solve a generational property grudge using precise GPS coordinates and cadastral maps. One family claims offenses on their land, so Dragan tries to measure it, but the village consensus completely rejects objective measurement. Their philosophy? Fence beats map. Fence is law. You have to love that logic. The physical reality of a fence built 20 years ago completely outweighs any legal piece of paper. Section 3, the potato discrepancy. By the year 2019, the stakes suddenly escalate. We're moving from missing alcohol to something much more critical: winter food security. What's really interesting here is the massive mathematical gap. The village estimated a harvest of 2,400 kilograms, but when Dragan weighs the current inventory, there's only 1,620 kilograms left, plus a tiny bit of spoilage. That leaves a massive 740 kilogram discrepancy. But as Dragan actually investigates, he realizes it wasn't some organized heist. It was literally just terrible visual estimating by the villagers, combined with totally undocumented, informal distribution. Section 4, the avian anomaly. It's during these seemingly mundane investigations that our true crime tone shifts into something, honestly, slightly more paranoid, because Dragan connects a truly bizarre, recurring detail across his files. If we trace the chronological escalation, we see 3 specific chickens repeatedly showing up at the exact center of these resource disputes. They were there monitoring the Rakija room, they were literally at the fence line, and they were watching the potato storage. And we are not just talking about birds wandering around aimlessly pecking the dirt. Dragan documents this chillingly coordinated, borderline supernatural behavior. These 3 chickens, he names them Alpha, Beta, and Gamma, maintain a perfect equidistant 4-meter perimeter around investigation sites. They stand in flawless triangular formations, and they execute perfectly synchronized departures following vocal cues from the alpha hen. Now, you might be thinking Dragan is just a paranoid inspector completely losing his grip on reality. But then, a pair of British anthropologists arrive in the village to study traditional life, and shockingly, they validate his bird observations with their own academic authority. They confirmed the statistical impossibility of these formations, realizing Dragan has meticulously documented a very genuine behavioral anomaly. Section 5. The Midnight Bell. This brings us to the absolute climax of our explainer, a genuinely perplexing physical mystery that hit the village in November 2020. The stakes get incredibly high here because the entire village is suddenly subjected to severe sleep deprivation. A heavy, 200-kilogram bronze church bell just begins ringing itself in the dead of night at exactly 3 a.m. for 14 nights in a row. Dragan goes into absolute overdrive, meticulously ruling out every logical, mechanical, and environmental explanation for this phenomenon. The electrical systems? Flawless. Timers? Completely normal. There is zero wind, and the pigeons living in the belfry are way too light to swing a massive heavy clapper. There is simply no rational reason for this bell to ring. So Dragan sets up a suspenseful overnight stakeout, and this brilliantly illustrates just how absurd this village's ecosystem is. At exactly 2:43 a.m., those same 3 chickens arrive in perfect formation on the ground outside. And just wait. Then, at 2:48 a.m., 3 small owls enter the bell tower. Finally, at 3 a.m., the owls trigger the bell. The chickens had anticipated the event exactly 17 minutes before it even happened. Let's break down the sheer, hilariously complex mechanics of this. 3 little owls land on the heavy bell rope. Combined, they weigh maybe 540 grams, which is nowhere near enough to pull it. But then, in absolute perfect coordination, all 3 owls push off the rope simultaneously to take flight. That tiny, synchronized push creates just enough kinetic energy to start the heavy bell clapper swinging. The owls literally rang the bell. Dragan brings the academics into the bell tower to prove it. And it leads to this fantastic comedic resolution. The anthropologists realize that, yes, Dragan has impeccably documented the facts, but the truth is just far too absurd for scientific journals. They simply can't publish it, because no one outside the village would ever believe it. Let's move to the real takeaway and see how this all builds together. This ultimately reveals Dragan's true purpose. Every community has that one person who serves as their essential obsessive external hard drive. Dragan is the institutional memory for a village that strongly prefers informal handshakes and strategic forgetting over actual paperwork. But we really can't close these case files without asking one final, lingering true crime question. We know exactly how the bell rang. But why on earth were 3 chickens perfectly coordinating their ground positions with 3 owls up in a tower 17 minutes in advance? What exactly are they monitoring? And what are the chickens waiting for?